You're watching PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff. Welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. Today, we are talking about the Democratic Socialists of America, specifically in New York City, with the political organization and party having quite a rise right now. And to help us learn all about the DSA in NYC, the co-chair of the DSA in New York City, Gustavo Gordillo. Gustavo, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
So I understand that you became co-chair, effectively one of two leaders of the local party, literally on the same day the organization decided to endorse Zohran Mamdani for mayor. Tell us about that day. Let's begin there.
Yeah, we have a convention every 2 years, which is where we hold our most important democratic decisions. And we had been thinking about a change in our electoral strategy for some months now at that point. And we had our elections for chapter leadership, and we decided to endorse Mayor Mamdani. And that's been the biggest project for the past year and a half.
So you call it a project. Let's take a step back, because I don't think it's a secret that at the point when you endorsed now Mayor Mamdani, the hope was to just build momentum for the organization, correct? Not to be dismissive of anybody, but you guys were just trying to get out there, find new members and so on and so forth, or am I misunderstanding?
I would say that we thought there was a narrow path to victory. Everyone was surprised in the primary in June when he won, defeated Cuomo by a landslide. I think it's fair to say that most of us thought it was unlikely that he would win, but there was a path to victory. And so we were running to win while also putting our agenda forward at the citywide level, which we hadn't really done before.
What does it mean to be a Democratic Socialist, and specifically a Democratic Socialist in New York City?
We believe that working people need to have control over their lives and that we need to expand democracy beyond the ballot box to the economy so that working class people have power in the workplace, over their own economic security. And we campaign by running Democratic Socialists for office, by trying to pass legislation that will put power in the hands of the people. And right now we're running a major campaign to tax the rich, which is our third time running such a campaign.
And there's obviously a lot of momentum behind that campaign. Let's stick with that for just a moment. The mayor is supportive of this. There was a big rally in Albany last week. It's especially getting tied into a massive budget deficit we're facing here in New York City. So bottom line here, do you think you will get any form of the two wealth taxes that you're advocating for, both a millionaire's tax and an increase of the corporate tax?
Yeah, the Trump tax cuts are going into effect. They're going to represent a $12 billion tax cut for the 1% in New York. And the governor has the power to fight back against Trump and do something about rising inequality. Most millionaires, people who make over $1 million per year in New York, are going to get about a 2.7% tax break next year. That's $100,000 on average in an annual tax cut. We're asking for a 2% increase in taxes. So, even if we get the income tax that we want, the rich may still come out, whole. We think this is a reasonable demand because the alternative is property tax cuts, it's cuts to essential services. And we just had a historic election in New York where over 1 million New Yorkers demonstrated that they want a different way of governing that puts the working class first, that will build an affordable city to live in for everyone by raising taxes on the rich.
How do you think the mayor is doing now? I mean, even on this tax the rich proposal, it was campaigned as an idea to make buses free, to pay for universal childcare. Now it's being mentioned as an idea to fill a budget deficit and avoid a worst case scenario, property taxes, service cuts. You mentioned them. How is the mayor doing so far?
On day 8, he announced a major step forward toward universal childcare through a partnership with the governor. And we think that That's a huge victory for working people in New York. Recently, the mayor also appointed a supermajority to the Rent Guidelines Board, which determines whether rent-stabilized tenants can have their rents increased. One of the major promises of this campaign was to freeze the rent for the duration of the administration. Now, with a supermajority on the Rent Guidelines Board, I think that's within reach, and I think in June, rent-stabilized tenants in this city will see a rent freeze.
And the mayor actually caught a little bit of flack the other day for when he achieved that majority of the Rent Guidelines Board for, saying, well, it's independent and they have that process. He did say he still favors a rent freeze. So how confident are you feeling in that process? Because the mayor has said they have to do their thing.
Mm-hmm. I'll say about half of those appointees are members of NYC DSA. I think their values are our values. So I think it's more of a legal question for the mayor. The Rent Guidelines Board is in fact an independent body, and the mayor can't just order them what to do. But we know the values of the appointees, and we're confident that we're going to win a rent freeze.
It's interesting. I didn't realize that approximately half the board you said were current DSA members. Mm-hmm. The other thing the mayor's been doing that's caught a lot of high-profile attention is had a pretty steady and open stream of communication with President Trump, which I think not a lot of people expected purely based on the mayor's own campaign rhetoric and, Democratic Socialists in general bashing the mayor during this campaign cycle. Has that been surprising to you, and have you viewed that as a positive thing in that he's been able to achieve certain things, including the discussion of a $21 billion housing project?
Mm-hmm. I think it's been a huge surprise to everyone, including the mayor himself, to be honest. I don't think that when Mayor Mamdani is speaking to the president that he's compromising on the values that he ran on. In fact, because of his direct communications with him, a Columbia University student was able to be released from ICE detention last week. So though it's surprising, I think in general, we think it's positive that the mayor can negotiate directly with the president to protect New Yorkers from ICE. And I think if this potential deal in Sunnyside Yards ends up going forward, I think that would be a huge victory for New Yorkers. The mayor ran on building 200,000 units of affordable housing. This would, be part of that campaign promise, and it would leave a legacy within the city.
Let's zoom out to some electoral politics to wrap it up here. I know you're supporting a number of candidates locally and nationally in the upcoming midterm elections. There was, however, a high-profile fight over not supporting Councilmember Chiosei to take on Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. I won't revisit all this stuff that's been just hashed through over the last couple of weeks and months, but how do you guys make this decision about who to get involved with? For example, obviously, you're supportive of Claire Valdez in New York 7. How do you make these decisions?
We have a very democratic process. We take votes at 3 different stages. And we also have a candidate recruitment committee, which I think is quite unique to our organization. Most organizations and unions in New York don't really prioritize recruiting working class people to run for office. So usually we're working on identifying candidates a year in advance. Then they come to forums with our electoral working group members. They vote. It goes to our chapter leadership. We vote. And, we have pretty rigorous debates all along the way. And that's how we end up, this year we're running our biggest slate ever.
And next year, will we see a Democratic Socialist standard bearer, perhaps Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, running for president?
I do think that we desperately need a Democratic Socialist campaign for president. If the representative chooses to jump into the race, I think that you would see a lot of support from New York City DSA, but it's ultimately her decision.
Gustavo, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you taking some time to tell us a little bit about Democratic Socialists of America, particularly in New York City, an organization that's definitely on the right. What's your membership up to, by the way? I should have asked you that.
We're at 14,000 members.
Which represents a huge growth for you guys,
yes,
right?
Yes, we've almost tripled in members.
Gustavo, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And that'll do it for this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. I am Henry Rosoff in for Dan Mannarino, who, of course, anchors The Big Show Friday nights at 6:30 with a re-air on Sunday morning. You have a great day.